Okay. Everybody ready? Amy, you're all set? Yes, awesome. Okay, Winston, we're gonna get going. So this is time to record. Dun dun dun. Okay, so most of you hopefully have seen the schedule. This is, I'm gonna send out this slideshow to everybody as well so that you can look at it later. This lays out everything that we were planning to do for this summer. And I've color coded it because there are a bunch of people that are going to be watching this that, see everything and kind of go like, whoa, that's a lot. And what do we do? And where do I land? So the white stuff is all training. The dark blue, purplish, those are regattas that are at home. And then the light blue is something that is away. There are a number of people, there are a handful of people on the travel team that haven't necessarily gone to big events yet. And some people on the club team that might be ready to travel to these bigger events. And so this is, and a bunch of intermediate folks and intro people taking 420s this summer. So this is a really good sort of rundown of the different types of regattas and kind of how to choose where to go. This slide will come back later. Okay, so figuring out, a lot of you that are here right now are on the travel team, so you already know this. But for those that are new, kind of why do we travel? Mainly, you're going to meet a ton of new people. You're going to race against people that are just like you, but they're from South Carolina, and they're from New England, and they're from Texas, and they're from all over the place. And you're going to race against these people when you get into college and when you go and live somewhere else outside of, the Bay Area. Sailing is obviously worldwide, and the people you meet, you will see forever. And so it's really cool for us to be able to kind of help you in the process of getting out of just the Bay Area and maybe Southern California and getting out to, the East Coast and beyond. Why should you travel? And that's kind of, the why is the fun, I think, is the biggest part. Obviously, myself and Udi, we're incredibly competitive people, and I love competing. I think so does Udi, and being able to practice really hard and to work on all your skills and then to go show everybody like, look, I'm really good at what I do. That's an awesome reason to travel as well. And so the fun is very, don't do it if you're not having fun is sort of always the first answer I look for. But then beyond that, obviously, we're competitive people, and we tend to have lots of competitive people around us as well. If you're sitting there thinking, well, okay, I'm on the club team and I just got on the team and I don't know, should I go next to, do I stay home or do I go to an event? That's when you go and you ask Udi or you ask myself and you say, hey, look, am I ready for it? And us coaches are very honest, and we will tell you right away, yes, you are, or hey, you know what? Why don't we work on staying at home for a little bit and work on these skills and kind of build our skill set before we, throw in a whole bunch of other variables before you, and for moms and dads, before you spend a whole lot of money to go to an event if they're not ready. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. So how do you choose? So the quick breakdown of kind of when you looked at all those lists of regattas, we have most of the regattas that we compete in get grouped together in series. And so here at home, we have the Bays series, which is Bay Area Youth Sailing, the Bays series, and we have a winter series over the school year and the summer series. And, obviously last summer, nothing happened, but this summer we will have 3 of the 4 Bays regattas happening. And typically when we start to get into racing, maybe the first time you go, you do one Bays regatta for the whole summer. And that's your first thing. And great, cool. I feel great. I've checked the box and I've learned. And that's the only time I was in town for the summer. Fantastic. And as you start to build your skill set, you're going to say, hey, look, I want to make sure that I make it to all of the series. And so that my cumulative score shows I'm the best 420 sailor in the whole Bay Area. And so that's when you start working for an entire series and not just one regatta. If you look at the Triple Crown is sort of the series for the Club 420 class nationally. And they take your best 3 events at a handful of regattas. And COVID obviously throws a wrench into kind of everything. But typically they try and choose events that would have 100, 200, a big portion of the country at it. And so midwinters typically would have, almost 200 boats. Nationals, North Americans would all have, huge fleets. And then the PCCs and the New England champs, those are sort of more regional events, and those would be big events for the area, but they wouldn't count as heavily as, let's say, nationals or North Americans, because the turnout wouldn't be as big. But what they do is they take your top 3 events, and then at that series, the Triple Crown, that is where you're able to say, like, hey, I just raced all these big events and I am the best 420 sailor in the country. And again, the first year you go to race nationally, you're not going to do all these events, and you're not going to win your goal isn't to win the Triple Crown. Your goal is to kind of get experience and keep building. And then you'll eventually, after a year, maybe 2 years, you'll say, okay, great. This is a realistic goal to finish in the top 10 in the Triple Crown. They're going to announce, the Club 420 class is going to announce what regattas they're counting for the Triple Crown, most likely in 2 weeks. We have a board meeting. So I'm on the Club 420 class board. So is Bob, who is one of the builders. And they will be voting on it at the meeting next week. And so it will be a little different because of COVID. Mainly because not everybody was able to travel. Some people chose, not to leave the state, and some people did. And anyway, so they're going to try, and the board is going to try and find the fairest way to figure out who would be crowned the Triple Crown winner for this year. Obviously, how to choose a big portion of it is finances, work, school, like the real world, right? It's not just, hey, mom and dad, I want to go and do all these regattas. This is awesome and I love it. The real world is, okay, these are expensive, and hey, you have a job that you committed to, or hey, you really got your grades have to get up in whatever class, and you got to take a summer school course, or you always go somewhere for the summer for these 3 weeks, and this is a family thing we've done for 70 years. Those things get in the way of what your real world, your ideal world, I guess you'd call it. And that's reality. It's nothing to say, oh, well, we can't do the series, can't do the regatta. That's not the case. We know everybody here is realistic, but it requires you to be realistic with your own, your own mom, your own dad, your own daughter, son, and say, hey, look, this is what we can do, and let's work around it. I think the most important part when you're trying to figure out what to do is don't bite off more than you can chew. Be realistic when you say, hey, this is what we can do. And then Udi and I sit down and we figure out how to make it work with everybody that's put their names on the list. It's not at all, hey, we're going to pressure you into this because we want you to go to every event. We want you guys to be comfortable and you want to be there. It's not at all a thing that you should feel forced. And then obviously the other stuff that gets in the way is other sailing. The work and the school and the family commitments obviously are listed above that, but also there's lots of other sailing that people do. Lots of people are into I-420s. Lots of people are kiteboarding. Some people go on, go charter a boat, go do a bareboat charter. We have keel boats, hopefully match racing and team racing. So again, there's 50 million things that every kid wants to do, and we want you to be able to do everything. But we want your expectations and our expectations to be managed, right? So realizing what you're wanting to do and what's possible and what it takes, right? So traveling outside the Bay Area, just to give you, for those that are new, an idea of the costs. So there's a coaching fee. It's $100 a day. We have a number of sailors from outside of PY that tend to join us at national events, and they have a higher fee to pay when they're not part of the program. But basically that goes towards everything to have your coaches. And if we have usually four to five boats, we'll have one coach. And then as you get 4 to 5 more, we'll have 2 coaches and 3 coaches and 4 coaches, just depending on how big we get. Thinking about, obviously all the travel costs. And then I put towing trailers. So Our program doesn't tend to do this, but a lot of programs do. I know when I grew up, we, not my family, but people in our program would drive trailers across country. And that's an option as well that we haven't really thrown out to anybody. But towing boats across country is a commitment, but sometimes people, that's what they want to do. And I put charter fees in here because typically that's what most of our program does, is they go to an event and they charter. This is put together, so disclosure for all of you that are on the call, and if you don't know Bob, but Bob is on the call right now. Bob works for Zim Sailing, and this he put together. We actually had an Opti travel talk a couple nights ago, and he put this together for the Optis with a little bit obviously different numbers and such, just to kind of give them an idea of what it's like when you go to charter a boat at an event. These two down at the bottom, so we have Zim Sailing and Simmons Boatworks. So Simmons Boatworks, for those that have been around, it used to be Sturgis Boatworks, kind of morphed into a different company, different owner. But these are the two charter companies that you can work with when you go to an event. There's kind of a lot of information on this page, but basically it kind of lays out, you got to plan ahead. You have to book these. There aren't 50 million 420s available. And so the more in advance you can block off, hey, I need a boat for this event, the better. Kind of breaks down the cost, refunds. So think about all the logistics of you getting to an event. They have all those same type of logistics of getting enough boats there. And they usually end up doing 2 to 3 trips back and forth out of Rhode Island. And so if they drive boats down to somewhere, it's a big expense and logistics on their end. And so there's a little bit of like refund issues. Can't just say, oh, I decided not to go. And this, you guys can all read it on your own. Again, I'll send out the slides to everyone. I'm going to rush through the first couple slides because I'd like to get Udi and Amy are also going to speak towards the end. Okay, so this is a lot of information for those that are new. So this right here, this I would love for Udi to kind of take over. And this is like once you're at an event and what it's like when you get to a regatta. So this is a travel event.
Hi, everyone. Good to see so many people coming and try to listen and want to take part of it. I cannot emphasize enough how much those events on the East Coast are making the sailors better. And I just noticed another simple, I always tell to the sailors, yes, you will go there, you will be overwhelmed. Sometimes maybe you will even crash, but then you come back to the West Coast, you are a different sailor. You get together, you understand better what it takes, and then you are like few levels better sailor. And those experiences are awesome. They're great. The biggest thing before we go into the details when we travel is to try to prepare ahead. We have a lot of things. We have a great setup. We work together as a team. We have a system and we communicate with one another. If it's a spare equipment, checklist, what to bring, what not, it depends. We take charter like Zim, doing one kind of charter that are very fixed on the equipment they give and how much they can allow us to change. Other boats, other charters are more flexible. It's different expenses. So some of the things you can bring from home, some not, sales, stuff like that. All of those things are super important to prepare ahead. And I will go a little bit with the details. We have our own checklist of how to set up the boat, how to prepare for the event. What do you do before traveling? What do you do at the day of the travel, the day that you arrive, the day after, the day before the regatta, the day of the regatta? We have a certain checklist for every scenario, for every situation. And we have equipment, what to bring and what to travel with. 420 sails, when you want to bring some of the sails, it's becoming a bit of logistics because it's a big long cube or that you need to fold or flake it in your big suitcase. And those big long tube or boxes can be easily be free by the airplane. If you're bringing it, it's a fishing pool. You just tuck a $20 fishing pool into the tube, and then like fishing equipment is free by the airfares. Unfortunately, they don't recognize sailing, but they recognize fishing. The charger setups, like I said, there's a Zim is very structural, very you know ahead what you get, you know what you get, and you know what you come with. Um, they're very strict with the changes, and we know ahead what to bring and what kind of bridles. Since we did it so many times, we have a lot of tweaks in the boat, and sometimes we bring our own equipment, sometimes we tweak it on site. Um, when we get on site, we some events you will face some measurement. This specific Club 420, we don't have measurements, but we have boat inspections. So the boat inspections, what the class is doing is checking the boat if it's actually legal. Since it's a one design boat and all the builders are having license, um, and it's a trust system, there's not a lot of measurement, but they check before going on the water most of the events, some safety regulation or on the finish line, if you have the right equipment, if you have your life jacket or whistle or safety lining on the rudder, the tow line. That I usually focus on the safety issue, but this is something as well to be prepared, something that we are not um, experiencing here in the local events. Um, when we get there, the logistics becoming much tougher. It's not like what we used to see here. It's not just show, come, show, and go. Um, Sometimes we need to travel different time area, the different time from your hotel, or to travel from one side to another if it's back to back an event, and then the logistics becoming more complicated. Since the equipment is not ours, like Molly mentioned, and we charter the equipment, the days unfortunately become very long. And if you add to that the jet lag that we and especially the kids are struggling with at these 3 hours, and that becoming very hard, since we need to set up the boat, to prepare the boat, to finish the boat, to polish the boat, to check every equipment, since it's not your own equipment and there is always wear and tears. Yeah, the days are very long, and I, I cannot say, unfortunately, but I am actually proud of that. PY are usually the first one to come to the site and the last to leave. We do go through the debriefs and all the details, because I know that you are the families putting so much time and effort and commitment, not just even money, and definitely a lot of money. And for me, I really care that it will be worthwhile. So I will squeeze every moment of the day to make it worthwhile for the kids to have a max of the experience of that. So the debrief will be long. To check the boat will be fully, and we work together as a team. Coach boat charter, that's sometimes a challenge on my end, but it's not our motorboat. Sometimes when we go to Florida, usually we have our boat, and on the New England events, usually we don't have our boat, so we charter a different boat. And sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes parents need to step in and help here if it's like some equipment, or to have a quick run to West Marine to help a little bit with gas or food and water or snacks. That's always helpful, especially because I need to deal with the kids and the coach boat. Um, since I came to PY, my philosophy is that we work as a team, and it's very important for me from day one, from the first event. It was very important for me to have a one team dinner. It's usually not on the first night because everyone tired, and it's the second or third, also not on the last night because everyone are already checked out. Somewhere halfway to the event, we're doing a team dinner. We have one table for the parents, one table for the sailors. Always find myself in between, and phones are not allowed, especially for the kids. I actually collect all the phones, and I think it's one of the biggest moments when all the kids are born together. The first a couple of minutes are a bit awkward because they don't have their phones, then they don't know what to do with themselves. But it's amazing to see after 2 minutes what's happening, and then you see how they bond together, and we develop an amazing team cohesion that always that's what stands out for PY and our team. When we travel, I ask from the sailors to go and read three different documents. It's the NOR, the SI, and the class rules. And when I asked them to read, especially the NOR and SIs word by word. Every event, those documents are different. There is a lot of fine printed that every word can make a big difference, and there was always some issues. There is always some two information that actually not goes along between the NOR, notice of race, and the SI selling instruction. And we always need to figure it out ahead. Again, prepare ahead is always good. One thing I want everyone to remember about the NOR is something that we always have one family and one team doing this mistake. Unfortunately, it's always put pressure on the rest of the team. Is when is the last day possible? The last race possible? And the NOR should mention that, and after it's mentioned on the NOR, they cannot change it, the latest race. And what I always ask is, when you plan your travel, don't plan to leave the site before 4 hours after the last race possible. And the math is very simple. And to leave the site, so you need to plan if you need to do the checkout or to do a commute to the airport or whatever it takes. The reason is about 1.5 hours the last race possible. It can take up to 1.5 hours with the last boat to finish. About 1 hour to travel back, to tow back and to sail back to shore, and another 1.5 to 2 hours to de-rig. And I'm sure that Bob will be here and step in and say, yeah, the de-rig, he will be the first one that wants to leave and to pack all his gear. And so 4 hours together. Do not plan to leave the site before 4 hours from the last race possible. It's always better if you can do it more, or to travel the day after, and you have 6 or 8 hours, because it takes time to replace my equipment, to find someone else's equipment, etc., etc. And debriefs are usually, again, I'm using the max of the time to do a proper debrief, so the kid will have the best experience from that. And unfortunately, lately we are doing it on site because of COVID restriction. We did it last midwinters. Often, and Amy, I'm sure she will step in here, when we have the opportunity to do all, a couple of the families sometimes have a big house, and then we have maybe more than one team dinner, and we bring all together and we have a dinner at one of the house. All the parents are stepping in, everyone bringing in food or stepping in, helping with the dinner. And then right after, we stay and doing a long debrief with video if possible. With COVID restrictions, it's super hard at the moment, and especially with Airbnb. It's always some of the people, it's hard for them. It's understood, but it's always great. This is part of the biggest part of the experience, how we work together, how we spend the extra day, maximize the hours of the day, and learn from every moment that we get together and experience the gathering together and the bonding. Housing, Amy is here, and I understand that she is going to talk. She is a veteran in our team, and she did all type of housing, and she can explain more. There is a hotel versus a rental or Airbnb. Hotel is very simple. You check in, check out, you know what you get. The rental sometimes can be sketchy, but most of our experiences were great. I think the system, the way it works together, is great. What's nice, you get the feeling of home. You are not like, okay, locked in a 4 walls of room, and you're not annoyed or it's too small for you. And you have the feeling of home. You have a home cooked dinner, and you can prepare a proper lunch, and you don't need to go and buy and run around the hustles. So yes, there is advantage for Airbnb, but hotel sometimes it's simple, straightforward. You know what you get. And lastly, I want to finish it with what I started. These events on the East Coast are extremely important. I cannot. The experience is awesome. The fun is great, and the learning is it's huge. And I definitely see when the kids, after going to the East Coast, they are learning a lot when they're coming back. But another thing that I want to say important, those big events, those national events, this is when, if you ever try aim to qualify to college, um, the college coaches, this is those events are what they look at. And if you have strong results over there, and it takes few times to sometimes it takes forever to get good results or to improve yourself, because it's overwhelming the size of the fleet. But over the last couple of years, I've talked a lot with the college coaches, and everyone's saying how much is the results over those nationals events. If it's a Club 420 or I 420, that's what they're looking at least in our fleet and our kids. And yes, there is other ways to get to studying in college or recruited, but at the end of the day, if you have strong results over there, you stand out with your results and performance. Some of the colleges actually makes the effort, even if it's tight with their schedule, to come and coach on site. And the reason for that, they want to see the kids. They want to see the face behind the name of the kids that sending emails. And more than that, they want to see how these kids perform, and especially in big events and national and high level events. So at the end of the day, if you ever wish to qualify or to get recruited to college, I think most of the strong college team, they look at that, and I think you need to find a way. Having good results in these events are always great on your selling resume.
Awesome. Thanks, Udi. Sorry, I got a cold. And Amy, I would love for you to give all of our parents, that obviously a lot of those tonight are on the travel team and have gone to events, but there are a lot of new people that are going to be watching this. So kind of just giving your point of view and what it's been like from, maybe the first event you went to, and now that you're like Udi said, a seasoned mom.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
So we started small and we went to the bays, and then we kind of gradually went to more and more travel regattas over the years. And I have 3 boys, so I mean, that's kind of part of it. I think if I had 2 or I had 1 that sailed, it would be a different experience. But the travel regattas are a lot of fun. It's the kids are very busy. They are gone from 7 in the morning till 6, 7 at night, so you don't see them. So when you go, don't plan on it being a vacation that you're, going to go and tour all these things because with your family, because you really won't see the sailor because they're there to sail. But we have a really good time, and I enjoy meeting the sailors and the parents, and even with midwinters in February, we had a great time. It was so nice to meet, all the new parents and talk with all of them. We just kind of hung out and spectated, and sometimes they're spectating boats. You have to usually get on a list early in the morning or put your name on the list the night before. We have chartered boats before as PY parents. One year at midwinters, we found some random guy to be our captain, and he came along and took us out, and we had a great time. But we tried to do that this time, but we didn't plan ahead early enough, and so we couldn't do that. But that is something, and if you're interested in that, then speak up, because there are a lot of people who want to do that. Photos, I love photos. I post all the time, post all the photos for the parents who don't go. Photos are awesome. And that reminds me of, if you want your kid to go and you're not quite sure that you can make it because of work or something, I would suggest you reach out to Udi or Molly, because there are a lot of parents that probably would be happy to take your kid if you were comfortable with that. And then I want to go back to food, water, and gas. We are there to support, and we run errands. We provide the lunch for the coaches. I usually bring a big cooler bag. I either pack it and put it in my suitcase, or I just buy an inexpensive one there so that I can put ice and keep the food cool for the lunches that go on the coach boat. I did have a kid get food poisoning at one of the regattas, I believe, because he ate his sandwich after it sat in the sun all day from 9 until 5, and he ate the sandwich. And around 11 o'clock, He was green. It was not pretty. And I didn't realize until about a month later that that's probably what made him sick. He ended up sailing the next day. It wasn't the best event, but that's how sailing goes. You'll hear me say this a lot. It's like the stock market. You have a good race and a bad race, and you have a great, it's all up and down. The COVID restrictions at Midwinters were awesome. They did an excellent job, I thought. You had to get a COVID test before you went. And then the kids, it was all about being honest, which is what sailing is all about. And the kids had to fill out an app every single morning. They had to show it to a monitor, somebody who was at the door letting them in. And they couldn't get in until they filled out that app and checked off every single question. They kept the parents away from all of the sailors, so it was roped off. So the parents could still watch the kids go on the water and watch them come in, but they kept us all in separate bubbles. So the Club 420 events were run really well. So our job is to be support, and we are, whatever the coaches need, we get it for them. Sometimes we drive and we pick up another coach at the airport. Sometimes it's going to Home Depot and picking up stuff, but we're there and we're doing that because our coaches are so dedicated, and they are there from 9 a.m. to 8 sometimes, helping our kids do what they need to do. As far as equipment goes, the kids should be, when they travel, they should be managing all their own equipment. I would not expect as a parent that I'm in charge of that. I don't pack my kids' bag. They have to do it. The only thing that I help them with is I feed them a really big breakfast every morning, and I encourage them to bring extras of things. So extra pair of sunglasses, extra hats, they blow off, they lose them. And if you're traveling, you can't just go get another pair that easy and that quick. So I sunblock, that kind of stuff. Those are the things I make sure that they have. Let's see. Udi does an amazing job making sure that the kids are responsible. And the last thing about humans, and it builds life skills. I look at traveling as an experience. For me and with my boys, sailing is an experience. Sure, we love it when our kids do well, but at the same time, it's the experience that really matters. And if it's a good experience, they want to come back and they want to do it again and again and again. And then they push themselves really hard. So, anyway, I can't thank Molly and Udi enough. You guys are awesome. You have taught my kids so much. And parents, if you ever have any questions, please reach out. I am happy to tell you about Airbnbs and why I choose an Airbnb, and I don't always choose a hotel. I'm happy to tell you about how far it is to drive here and there and what my experience is with that. But I don't think we have enough time right now. So, reach out if you need to.
Amy, that's perfect. That's awesome. I think the point about chaperoning, that's a really big one that isn't written on here, and it probably definitely should be. A lot of our new sailors, moms and dads are thinking like, oh man, that's going to be a lot of time off work, and how do we make this work? And very quickly, you're going to learn that these are long trips, and it is a big commitment. And typically, in a normal year, we'd have kind of 2 to 3 regattas close in proximity, and we'd go to the East Coast for a long chunk of time. And so what we've done in the past is that parents split it up, and half the parents will do the front half and the other half do the back half of the event, so that you can still be at home at work, or with your other kids that aren't sailing or whatever it might be, or go off and do like a college trip and go see some places and some schools, and then come back and do an event at the tail end. So we all tend to be pretty creative on how to make it work, obviously, for everybody's home life. And all of the stuff that you mentioned is awesome, Amy. It is definitely, it's like a whole nother family that we build here. And when, you know, the COVID stuff, this is all, everything feels really weird. And we have a lot of new people in our program that we haven't hung out with yet. We're hoping to have some family nights this summer. So hopefully we get to meet everybody. But these travel events, I'm hoping that we're going to have more and more people going to all of them.
Holly, just
Yep.
just to Amy, first of all, thank you. It was amazing. Amy is one of our biggest supporters, and we love having her around. And we always have, first of all, there is a parents group chat, and we always, prior to an event, we have the parents chat. And I think Natalia is here. I think this last midwinter was her first, as a family, it was their first event, and the same as Scott. And I'm sure that before you submitted to an event, you said, oh my God, wow, what are we signing on and what's going on? It was overwhelming. And for every it's amazing how every event we see the communication over the parents group chat, how we share the information, especially the last few months. We have so many parents that are so involved and so restricted with the COVID and the mask and everything. The information that was shared over there was outstanding. It was a great teamwork between all the parents, and it was so easy for everyone. It actually made our lives so much easier on our end. So yes, like Amy said, there's the parents group chat. Both Molly and I are CC on that. Sometimes we can share the information. Sometimes actually the parents have better answer than we actually do, because they're doing so much work on a behind the scene that help us so much. So thank you for that, Amy.
Udi,
Yeah, and just reach out for those.
yeah, reach out early. If you can't go and you want your kid to go, to an event, make sure you reach out early enough, because then people can make arrangements that they're taking your kid. So, and then I wanted to add, Molly, about the whole family, how we're a family and we take care of each other's kids. And we have a new tradition called the smoothie mom and dad. And at Midwinters, parents were bringing smoothies like it was like they were going out of style. Not everybody has to do that, but that is the way PY is, which is pretty awesome, where people are taking care of everybody's kids.
Totally. Okay, so this, I'm gonna fast forward to the schedule as well, but just before I do this, so right here it says register now with PY for pairing. So that would be the summer registration. So remember, we have local regattas. So we have the Bays events, and then we also have the 2 East Coast events, well, Rochester and New Jersey. Charter company, so you got to make sure you have a boat if you're going to the events that are outside the Bays area. Travel, and then these 2 dates, please make sure those dates are on your calendar. So the big events typically have, you know, we could have up to 200 boats, and that's kind of what the Club 420 class struggles with, is finding hosts that can have that many boats in one place. And then you add on top of that COVID restrictions, which are obviously easing, but the Midwinters was capped at 100, and they would have probably had 175, 200 boats if they could. And so these 2 dates are when registration opens, and they basically, it's first come, first serve. You get your name on the registration, and then you get put onto a waiting list. And then with COVID, the way it's gone is sort of, I think they originally had it as 75 at Midwinters, and then they upped it to 100. So those 2 dates should be on your calendar if you are thinking about going to the East Coast events. This is the schedule again. So the white is, those are basically training days leading up to the regattas. The dark blue are the regattas that are at home. Quickly, the explanation for Bemis. So we hosted the Chubb Championships a couple years ago, and that's basically the U.S. Sailing National Championships for single, double, and triple-handed sailing. The double-handed is Bemis, so obviously it's done, or not obviously, but it's done in Club 420s. And so we have the Bemis qualifier. You qualify from each area of the country. And for our area, I believe we get 2 boats that get to qualify. So there's a total of 20 at the finals. The finals are down at the bottom in Marblehead. And that would be really awesome if the 2 Bay Area boats were from PY. So the qualifier is, it's going to be hosted by SFYC. And it is either going to be June 5, 6 or July 10, 11. And they are what it sounds like. We just had a Bays board call yesterday. And it sounds like they're going to go with the July date because they don't think that they're going to be allowed because of COVID restrictions to do it by June. But it's not final yet. So that's why it still lists the 2 dates. But it sounded on the call yesterday that it's pretty likely to be in July. And then the light blue are the North Americans and the Nationals. So Rochester and in Grant Beach. Both great places to sail. I've sailed in both of them. I think our 420 teams, I don't know if we've had anybody sail in Rochester, but both awesome places. Marblehead's obviously a super awesome place and great for the parents that are like, I know nothing about sailing, but I want to go sightsee. Awesome place to hang out. Marblehead's super fun. And obviously all the Bays events. So again, remember, how you're weighing, what do we do and how's my summer look? Talk with your families, be really honest with each other, plan ahead now. It says, hey, look, these all look like things we can do. Great. Go on to our summer camp registration, go sign yourself up. And basically there's, going to be this huge long list and we're going to realize, okay, these are travel team folks. And these are people that are probably already paired together and been together for a long time. And here's our club team folks. And we're going to figure out who's going to be able to do the most events together, whose ability matches, whose personalities match, that type of thing. And the sooner everybody can get their names on the correct list, the easier it is for Udi and I to kind of sort through everything and make our plans and, line up extra coaches and line up extra coach boats and obviously line up all our charter boats for the Club 420s at these big events.
Question. You just mentioned that we most likely the BMS qualifier will be July 10 and 11th, right? If that I remember correctly. If so, what are the training camp dates so people can write it down on their dates?
So right above it, it's in white. It says May 29, 31 would be just before June 5, 6.
Okay,
and then July 5 through 8 would be just before July 10 and 11.
Sorry, got it.
Any other questions? I know we covered a lot of info. Yes, Amy.
I have a question. Okay, so I look at the sign up and I'm thinking, all right, if there's Bays, maybe one of my kids will go to Bays instead of one of the national events. I don't know. Would you like us to sign up for everything possible now on the sign up, the club spot for practice, or should I make that decision or my kid make that decision because I'm not sure what's going to happen and what's not?
So on the registration side, if let's say Johnny really wants to go to North Americans and tells you, Mom, hey, I really want to go to North Americans. Can you put me on the list? Great. North Americans, if you register with us on ClubSpot, if you register for any of the big travel events, there's no fee. So you're just putting your name on a list. It's kind of like we used to use Sign Up Genius, right? And you put your name on the list and then we kind of sort through who everybody's going to go where. So that part, that's an easy one. Cool. They're basically raising their hand and saying I really want to travel. I talked with Mom and Dad and I want to make the big step. Then the next step is that Udi and I see these lists of everybody that wants to go. And that's when we talk with the sailors and say, okay, this is what level we're at. What do we think? And we go from there.
Perfect.
Does that answer the question? Udi, do you have a?
No, yes, I think the right thing is if it's the parent, and we will have the communication coming from the sailors, and we like to see the sailor drive it. Obviously, when it comes to a travel on the East Coast, parents have to be involved because there's so much logistics and obviously big commitment of money and time and family commitment around that. So yes, this communication need to be together. And I just got a question offline. If my skipper cannot if my kids keeper cannot come, can the crew go? Yes, definitely. We every year we face a challenge, and every year we find a challenge. Over the past few years, PY network grew enormously, and we sailors from all over the country want to sail with us. And I get probably once or twice a week a message or a call from my parents on the East Coast or somewhere else that I need a skipper, or I need a crew for the summer. We always will find a solution. We luckily we also have a huge roster in the PY, and that we can figure it out. Yes, the travel team they are recommended to travel, but there is always sailors that on the gray area that they're ready to go. Maybe yes, maybe not. Sometimes it depends on your teammates and your commitment. So if there is a skipper or a crew that wants to travel, we can always reach out to another potential skipper that maybe his sibling is traveling, maybe this driver is ready, and his crew is still like trying to figure it out. We always have we are very creative, and we always find a solution. We never left a sailor behind. And actually, Amy and her son Timmy that is here, I remember 2 years ago, we needed a crew, and we reached out to Timmy. Actually, it happened to Timmy twice, one locally with CISA, but also once in the East Coast. And like the day after, he was on the plane, and one of the parents picked him up from the airport, and the afternoon he was already on the water. We always find a solution for every kid. We never leave a kid behind.
Awesome. On that, if we don't have any other questions,
Can I ask one question? Quick question, Molly.
Of course.
How are
Hi, Don.
yes, hi. How's the Bemis camp different than the Bays camps?
It's not different. It just has a different name because it's a different regatta.
Okay.
So the name of the regatta is the Bemis qualifier versus Bays 1, Bays 2.
I see. Okay, so not different preparations.
No,
style of camp. Yeah. Okay.
Nope. Same type of camp, 4 days. Or sorry, if it were Memorial Day weekend, I don't go over school, right? If it was early, but otherwise you're out of school, and so it's a 4-day camp, Monday through Thursday.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
And the 420 camps is actually a great question. The 420 camps are later because a lot of our sailors are either coaching somewhere or working or doing something else. And so the camps are in the afternoon. They're late. They're like our practice. It's after school.
Scott, you had a question about
Thank you.
Sorry. Scott, you asked something about Brooke Gonzalez? Scott? You asked about Gonzalez.
The only question I had was about BEG, and I don't know if that applies to this necessarily, or if it's a different program.
So those are clinics. Brooke Gonzalez is a clinic, and there are a bunch of clinics that go on around the country. There's a CISA clinic. There's a Brooke Gonzalez clinic. There's a Neil clinic in Chicago. So yes, none of those are regattas. Those are all clinics, and they're usually you need to fill out a resume, and you need to an application and turn in a resume to get into those. And we can definitely put together all of the deadlines and the dates for that as well. If you are thinking about going to those types of clinics, these regattas are definitely kind of must-do regattas. Let's say that you aren't ready to do the national events yet. You need to, if you're thinking, hey, I really want to go to these big clinics that are national clinics that, are high level and I have to apply to get into, you should this summer, if you're thinking, hey, that might be next year, this summer it should be, okay, I'm going to do as well as I can in the Bays Summer Series and the Bays Winter Series, because that's going to show you kind of have a long-term plan of, okay, I'm doing well here. I'm getting to the top of my fleet at home, and then I'm going to go get my feet wet at midwinters, or I'm going to go to nationals this year.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Thank you, Molly and
Yep.
Rudy. I have to say it was super helpful for not just me with in midwinters for the first kind of travel trip that Sawyer had with Robert and the team. it was super amazing. Dan, Robert's dad, was super helpful. Amy, super helpful. And then the other parents, we all just kind of figured out where all of us were and watched the regatta from this kind of hole in the wall place over there. And it was a pretty amazing couple of days, I have to say. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. It's good. We're one big family, right? And soon we'll all get to see each other, not in a little square on the side of a computer. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining the call tonight, and make sure we're on the Signal chat for the 420 parents. And if you don't know how to get on that, send myself or Udi an email, and go talk with your kids and your moms and dads and figure out what you want to do this summer. Good night, everybody.
Sounds good.